And we're asking her what functional break.
No one should ever be sexually assaulted, let alone a child. It's unimaginable what that child must be going through, not to mention the pain their parents must feel. In court, some parents lose control. But can you really blame them? These criminals, attacked by their victims' parents, are truly the worst of the worst. Take John Ackland, for example. Let me tell you a story that will make your blood boil. This monster, John Ackland, was so vile that even the judge couldn't hold back. Imagine this. A 56-year-old man, someone who should have been a protector, instead became the worst nightmare for two innocent children. But when justice finally caught up with him, he got
still heartbreaking for as long as I've been doing this. And for as hard as the state police, Texas Rangers, and the Child Advocacy Center works on behalf of these children, and as courageous as these child victims, survivors have been, they affect us all.
Here's how it started. Ackland, originally from Livingston but living in Bandera, Texas, thought he could escape his past. However, in 2017, investigators in New York began looking into reports of sexual assault that had haunted two young victims for years. It turned out that between December 2004 and March 2006, Ackland had been abusing these children, kids who were under the age of 11. The abuse stopped when he moved to Texas, but the damage he left behind was permanent.
I'm not defined by what my character is not defined by what you've done to me and everything I've been through. And I hope that you never see the light of day again. I hope that you're never going to be around any children.
Fast forward to his trial. The Columbia County Court was packed, and the tension in the room was palpable. Ackland faced serious charges, including sexual conduct against a child, aggravated sexual abuse in the first and second degrees, and criminals' sexual acts. It was a horrifying list of crimes, and just hearing the charges was enough to make anyone's stomach turn. The prosecution didn't hold back. They presented evidence, testimonies, and even video recordings to build their case. As for the defense, Ackland's lawyer, John Hillman, did his best to argue on his behalf. But let's be real. How do you...
It didn't happen. I don't know how they can accuse me of this. I was always good to those kids.
To him, what he did to those kids wasn't wrong. That's the kind of twisted logic only someone like him could come up with. But let me tell you, the judge wasn't buying it. Not for a second. Judge H. Jonathan D. Nichols didn't mince words during the sentencing. He laid it out for Ackland in a way that made everyone in the courtroom feel the weight of justice.
I wasn't prepared for today. If you realized in that second day of your interview that that was your last day with me, officer, because it is.
Ackland sat there, stone-faced, showing zero remorse, even as one of his brave victims stood up and spoke her truth. She looked him in the eye and said,
After that today, I'm able to seek justice for what I've been through. And I hope that he's sentenced to the rest of his life in prison because he should never be let out to harm any other children.
And you know what? She got her wish. Ackland was sentenced to 335 years in state prison. That's right, 335 years. Now here's the kicker. Even after all that, Ackland didn't flinch. No tears, no apologies, just cold indifference. How someone can be so emotionless in the face of everything they've done is beyond me. But honestly, that's what makes this sentence feel like justice. He doesn't just have to spend the rest of his life in prison. He has to live every single day knowing he's been completely cut off from the world he terrorized. Oh, and get this. His crimes didn't just affect his victims. The investigators...
These cases are still heartbreaking for as long as I've been doing this. And for as hard as the state police, the Texas Rangers, and the Child Advocacy Center works on behalf of these children, and as courageous as these child victims, survivors have been, They affect us all.
So John Ackland will spend every single moment of the rest of his miserable life behind bars. And honestly, good riddance. This world doesn't need people like him walking free. Now buckle up, because the next case...
The conduct exhibited and testified to is beyond description.
Goliath Van Allen. This case is one of those that leaves you speechless. It's about 4 people who didn't just ruin lives, they destroyed...
You have been found guilty by a jury of your peers to have done.
During the trial, one of the children bravely spoke up, saying, "I'm super upset by them. They ruined my life. I wish every day I could be a baby again, so someone could take me away and save me from Janine and Goliath, so I could have a better, safer life." The defense tried to argue technicalities, like the lack of specific dates, but it didn't hold up. The details were far too horrifying.
You did so at a time when, as a father, you should have been teaching them to grow up, teaching them how to fish, how to hunt, how to play baseball, how to do other things that could have made them happy and positive.
Despite Goliath Van Alphen, his complete lack of regret was disturbing, and it did not go unnoticed. Their eerie thing that was revealed during the trial. There was no real remorse.
The trust which is placed in an adult by a child, and I cannot ignore that. These young children appear to have been suffered greatly.
In the end, Goliath Van Alphen, Janine Van Alphen Moot, William Wendover III, and Eugene Shackleton were all sentenced to life in prison. Their crimes were unspeakable, and this sentence was the only way justice could even begin to be served. Just like in the next case, one involving David Solomon.
No remorse. The conduct exhibited and testified to is beyond description, and these children have been harmed. I cannot see in any way, shape, or form any appropriate sentence but the following.
How would you feel if someone your child trusted, like their coach, turned out to be their worst nightmare? That's exactly what happened in this horrifying case involving David Solomon, a Florida-based Little League baseball coach who betrayed the very children he was supposed to protect. 2 young boys placed their trust in him.
Happened in the car, I don't know what date. It happened to every car I remember one.
Solomon even manipulated the boy into believing it was part of the bro code, making him feel like he had no choice but to enjoy.
God have mercy on your soul, because where you're going, nobody else will.
The defense tried to fight back, accusing the prosecution of misconduct, but Solomon's troubled past made their case an uphill battle. This wasn't his first brush with accusations. Back in 2000, Solomon was arrested for molesting 2 boys, under 14 from a baseball team he coached. However, those charges were dropped when one of the boys withdrew his story, leaving the situation messy and highly suspicious. But this time, the victims and their parents refused to stay silent. In court,
he does me mostly every red lane we go call, when he goes call. The one time we just yelled at him because I moved him away from the ball. And then he's like, "Hey, it's part of the road code. You have to let me get this every red light."